spite. 14. Fallacy. Appeal to spite. An appeal to spite is a logical fallacy that attempts to persuade an audience by exploiting existing feelings of bitterness, resentment, or anger towards an opponent or a hated concept, instead of engaging with the merits of an argument. This fallacy relies on emotional manipulation to associate the opposing idea with something the audience already dislikes, causing them to reject it out of spite rather than reason. How it works. 1. Exploiting existing emotion. The persuader leverages pre-existing negative feelings, such as hatred or envy, towards a person, group, or idea. 2. Associating with the argument. The disliked person or concept is then associated with the argument being made by the opponent. 3. Emotional rejection. The audience, stirred by their feelings of spite, rejects the argument not because it's flawed, but because it comes from or is connected to something they despise. Example: we shouldn't even consider their proposal because it comes from that party that's always trying to undermine our values. Don't you just hate how they're always pushing their agenda? In this example, the argument doesn't address the actual merits or drawbacks of the proposal. Instead, it tries to make the audience feel spite towards the opposing party, hoping they'll reject the proposal based on that emotional reaction alone. Key characteristics. Appeal to emotion. It is a type of appeal to emotion, using negative emotions to sway an argument. Logical fallacy. It is a fallacious argument because it substitutes emotional manipulation for actual evidence and reasoning. Distraction. It serves to distract from the real issue at hand by redirecting the audience's attention and anger toward a target. Description of appeal to spite. The appeal to spite fallacy is a fallacy in which spite is substituted for evidence when an argument is made against a claim. This line of reasoning has the following form. Claim X is presented with the intent of generating spite. Therefore claim C is false. Or true. This sort of reasoning is fallacious because a feeling of spite does not count as evidence for or against a claim. This is quite clear in the following case. Bill claims that the Earth revolves around the Sun. But remember that dirty trick he pulled on you last week. Now, doesn't my claim that the Sun revolves around the Earth make sense to you? Of course, there are cases in which a claim that evokes a feeling of spite or malice can serve as legitimate evidence. However, it should be noted that the actual feelings of malice or spite are not evidence. The following is an example of such a situation. Jill: I think I'll vote for Jane to be treasurer of now. Vicky: remember the time that your purse vanished at a meeting last year? Jill: yes. Vicky: well, I just found out that she stole your purse and stole some other stuff from people. Jill: I'm not voting for her. In this case, Jill has a good reason not to vote for Jane. Since a treasurer should be honest, a known thief would be a bad choice. As long as Jill concludes that she should vote against Jane because she is a thief and not just out of spite, her reasoning would not be fallacious. Examples of appeal to spite. Bill: I think that Jane did a great job this year. I'm going to nominate her for the award. Dave: have you forgotten last year? Remember that she didn't nominate you last year. Bill: you're right. I'm not going to nominate her. Jill: I think Jane's idea is a really good one and will really save a lot of money for the department. Bill: maybe. Remember how she showed that your paper had a fatal flaw when you read it at the convention last year? Jill: I had just about forgotten about that. I think I'll go with your idea instead. 15. Fallacy. Appeal to tradition. The appeal of tradition is when something is considered good. valid, or right because it has been done or believed for a long time, but this is a logical fallacy if age or custom is the sole justification. While traditions can provide cultural identity, stability, and offer solutions that worked in the past, relying solely on their longevity can stifle innovation, preserve harmful practices, and ignore outdated beliefs or ineffective methods. For a tradition to be valid, it should be supported by evidence and sound reasoning, not just its historical prevalence. Why traditions are appealing. Cultural identity and connection. Traditions often create a sense of belonging and continuity within families, communities, and cultures. Stability and comfort. Following traditional practices can provide comfort and a sense of security in an ever-changing world. Wisdom from the past. Some traditions may have been developed and refined over generations and may contain valuable, time-tested wisdom. Shared values. Traditions often embody shared moral or cultural values, reinforcing a community's collective identity. Why an appeal to tradition is a fallacy. Irrelevant to truth. The fact that something has been done for a long time does not automatically make it true, right, or effective. Stifles innovation. Relying on tradition as the only reason to continue a practice can prevent the adoption of new, better, or more efficient methods. Preserves harmful practices. Some traditions were created in different societal contexts and may now be unfair, discriminatory, or harmful. Outdated logic. The reasoning or evidence that originally supported a tradition may no longer apply or may be based on faulty premises. Examples. Gender roles. A family may insist that women should only raise children because that's what we've always done, even if contemporary society recognizes more equal roles. Outdated practices. A company might continue using an old, inefficient process simply because it's a long-standing tradition, rather than adopting a more modern and effective method. Questionable health practices. A belief in the health benefits of drinking only hot water may be based on traditional medicine rather than modern scientific understanding of germ prevention. Also known as appeal to the old ways are best, fallacious appeal to the past, appeal to age. Description of appeal to tradition. Appeal to tradition is a fallacy that occurs when it is assumed that something is better or correct simply because it is older, traditional, or always has been done. This sort of reasoning has the following form. X is old or traditional. Therefore X is correct or better. This sort of reasoning is fallacious because the age of something does not automatically make it correct or better than something newer. This is made quite obvious by the following example. The theory that witches and demons cause disease is far older than the theory that microorganisms cause diseases. Therefore, the theory about witches and demons must be true. This sort of reasoning is appealing for a variety of reasons. First, people often prefer to stick with what is older or traditional. This is a fairly common psychological characteristic of people, which may stem from the fact that people feel more comfortable about what has been around longer. Second, sticking with things that are older or traditional is often easier than testing new things. Hence, people often prefer older and traditional things out of laziness. Hence, appeal to tradition is a somewhat common fallacy. It should not be assumed that new things must be better than old things. See the fallacy appeal to novelty. Any more than it should be assumed that old things are better than new things. The age of something does not, in general, have any bearing on its quality or correctness. In this context, in the case of tradition, assuming that something is correct just because it is considered a tradition is poor reasoning. For example, if the belief that 1 + 1 = 56 were a tradition of a group of people, it would hardly follow that it is true. Obviously, age does have a bearing in some contexts. For example, if a person concluded that aged wine would be better than brand new wine, he would not be committing an appeal to tradition. This is because, in such cases, the age of the thing is relevant to its quality. Thus, the fallacy is committed only when the age is not, in and of itself, relevant to the claim. One final issue that must be considered is the test of time. In some cases, people might be assuming that because something has lasted as a tradition or has been around a long time that it is true because it has passed the test of time. If a person assumes that something must be correct or true simply because it has persisted a long time, then he has committed an appeal to tradition. After all, as history has shown, people can persist in accepting false claims for centuries. However, if a person argues that the claim or thing in question has successfully stood up to challenges and tests for a long period of time, then they would not be committing a fallacy. In such cases, the claim would be backed by evidence. As an example, the theory that matter is made of subatomic particles has survived numerous tests and challenges over the years, so there is a weight of evidence in its favor. The claim is reasonable to accept because of the weight of this evidence and not because the claim is old. Thus, a claim surviving legitimate challenges and passing valid tests for a long period of time can justify the acceptance of a claim. But mere age or persistence does not warrant accepting a claim. Examples of appeal to tradition. Sure, I believe in God. People have believed in God for thousands of years, so it seems clear that God must exist. After all, why else would the belief last so long? Gunther is the father of Conan. They live on a small island, and in their culture women are treated as property to be exchanged at will by men. Conan: You know, father, when I was going to school in the United States, I saw that American women are not treated as property. In fact, I read a book by this person named Mill in which he argued for women's rights. Gunther: So, what is your point, son? Conan: Well, I think that it might be wrong to trade my sisters for cattle. They are human beings and should have a right to be masters of their own fate. Gunther: What a strange and newfangled notion you picked up in America. That country must be even more barbaric than I imagined. Now think about this, son. We have been trading women for cattle for as long as our people have lived on this island. It is a tradition that goes back into the mists of time. Conan: But I still think there is something wrong with it. Gunther: Nonsense, my boy. A tradition this old must be endorsed by the gods and must be right. Of course, this mode of government is the best. We have had this government for over 200 years and no one has talked about changing it in all that time. So, it has got to be good. A reporter is interviewing the head of a family that has been involved with a feud with another family. Reporter: Mr. Hatfield, why are you still fighting it out with the McCoys? Hatfield: Well, you see, young man, my father feuded with the McCoys and his father feuded with them, and so did my great-grandfather. Reporter: But why? What started all this? Hatfield: I don't rightly know. I'm sure it was the McCoys who started it all, though. Reporter: If you don't know why you're fighting, why don't you just stop? Hatfield: Stop? What are you, crazy? This feud has been going on for generations, so I'm sure there is a darn good reason why it started. So I aim to keep it going. It has got to be the right thing to do. Hand me my shooting iron, boy. I see one of those McCoy skunks sneaking in the cornfield. 16. Fallacy. Bandwagon. The bandwagon fallacy. or argumentum ad populum.